Sleepy Hollow Season 2, Episode 3, Root of All Evil. Definitely a great episode. I really enjoyed it. The stuff that they had with Henry was pretty interesting. I thought it would really focus on him in the beginning, but he really had sort of small moments, but I don't want to call them minor. And they were small, of course, in the very beginning. He kind of just walked around the corner, but he was the one who basically turned the woman evil, and of course, he turned Jenny evil when he gave her the coin. And by the end of the episode, we actually see him in his old house. So they kind of played the little story where his mother was speaking to the horseman, and she was trying to mess with him, and he spoke to her early on in the episode, like, don't mess with him because it'll end up getting you killed. So it kind of seemed like he cared, and he was at a loss for words when she said, how are you doing in the house? And by the end of the episode, he burns the bed. So it's starting to affect him. So it's really cool to see that actual change of emotion in his character, because once he was kind of the evil character, he had been just the smart evil character. Honestly, he had just been evil, and I enjoyed him as a bad guy. He's a really great bad guy, I think, because he's a smart bad guy. Like, he pretends to be the lawyer, which I love the fact that Ichabod was able to get to Irving when he was in the asylum, but he's pretending to be a lawyer. He pretended to be the one guy's lawyer in this episode so that he could steal the coin and give it to Jenny. But he'd been really cool, and then by the end of this episode, we see him kind of being hit with this wave of nostalgia, basically, and emotion. So it'll be interesting to see how that changes his character throughout this season, and how it affects some of the battles that might end up happening when he has to take control of the suit again. But I did enjoy the episode. The main story was definitely really good. The coin was pretty cool. It even kind of led us to the introduction of a new character who may or may not become a part of the main cast, probably in like season 3. But Hawley seems like a pretty cool guy. He knows a lot of stuff just like Ichabod does, which I think will be really cool as far as the banter goes in future episodes. And in the preview after this episode finished, I saw a little clip of him like holding a gun, so he's gonna be in future episodes, and he really helped out in this episode. It was really cool to get a new character in there, and he may have a lot of resources. He has something. It seemed like he kind of lived on the docks when they first ran into him. He's just like walking on the docks, but he has guns. He knows all this stuff, all this information. He's kind of, Ichabod called him a privateer, but he's like a treasure hunter almost. So it's kind of cool to get that type of character in the show where he's in it not for the savior for saving all mankind or anything. He's just in it for money and excitement, but he does have the knowledge that can help them out when they really need it and they're at a loss and they don't really have anything. So it's cool to get that new character. Of course, he helped Ichabod at the end by giving him identification. And one thing I really enjoyed in this episode was the stuff we got to learn about Abby and Jenny's mother and how she was actually haunted by demons. And that was a really cool part of the backstory. And it'll be interesting to see what happens in next week's episode, because I'm sure they won't just skip over it, because of course Abby finds out in this episode. So I'm curious to see. I'm really excited to see what happens when she tells Jenny exactly what went down with her mother and why she ended up killing herself. But it was a good episode. We even learned a little bit about Reyes and how she was the one who convicted their mother, and she thought it would help just like she did with Irving, although the stuff with Irving, I don't know if she really gave a crap about him, but she was trying to help their mother by getting her put in the psych ward compared to prison, and it was just really interesting. But she was really good in this episode too, like especially in the beginning. Like, she does not mess around. When Abby was in the bank and she was trying to talk down that woman, she came in. Of course we don't know how long she was really there, but the woman was talking and she was like, no, this and stuff. So it seemed like she wasn't gonna be talked down, and it didn't matter. Reyes just boom, she shot her right in the heart, and it was done. Like, I saw what was happening, I heard what she said, and I took her out. And she doesn't mess around when it comes to people's lives being in danger. So that was pretty interesting to see in the beginning, and I love the fact that she was cool enough of a person to give Abby the file at the end of this episode. I really enjoyed that because it was I think the very first sign we actually got of her being sort of loose with the rules, and she wasn't just super strict about it. She wanted to give Abby some sort of closure on everything that happened. So I really enjoyed that about her character as well. But overall, I think it was a really great episode. It's probably my favorite so far. They had a really interesting premise. I don't know if they'll bring that back. The coins are at least out in the world. So Hawley mentioned how he would try to look for the whole set. So that might be how they kind of have him leave the show, like, oh, I gotta lead, and then he's gone, so he's not just in every episode. But that was really cool getting the stuff with um, Henry at the end of the episode, and just the little moments he had, and also the moment with Abby and Ichabod when they talk about his wife and how she stayed there, and Abby said something that I never thought of, and that's, would she really bet her life on the fact that a mother would betray her own son even after everything that's happened? And she kind of walks away and shrugs, like, I can't really say I bet my life on that. And I thought that was really cool because I never considered that before. Like, yeah, regardless of all the craziness that happened and putting them in a box or having someone get taken off by the horsemen of war or horsemen of death, it's still, there's still a family. Ichabod is still Henry's father, and Henry's still a son to both his parents. So it'll be really interesting to see how Katerina does affect him. And we saw, like I said in the end of this episode, we saw how she's starting to affect him, but what's going to happen when Henry starts to affect his mother and the time comes to betray them and she can't, put her son down. So I'm excited to see that. But great episode. One thing I did notice I wanted to mention is, before I forgot, when the flower shop blew up, and I'm sure a lot of you guys noticed this, their like explosions were off a little. I guess something happened and they were just delayed by like a second. But you heard like two little explosions because like the glasses broke, and so it was like psh, psh, and then it blew up and they did like the slow motion big explosion. I thought that was kind of funny. It's just something that really caught my mind or caught my eye, and I just kind of wanted to note it. And I'm wondering, did you guys actually notice that when it happened? Because when I saw it, it was like the glasses just broke, and I was really curious. I think the main reason that caught my attention is because it seems so weird that they would even have to do that because they have a giant explosion. It seemed weird unless that really did happen, which I don't know what type of super explosive you'd have to get some sort of crazy shockwave that like hits one thing and then hits another thing and then it blows up. So I think it was just they set it up to all explode at once, but I don't know, but it was something that definitely caught my attention. But I really love this episode. Of course, comment below, let me know what you guys thought about it, your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and with Ichabod being able to get into the asylum and or the clinic, I guess, to help out Irving, how do you guys think his story is going to start to transform throughout the rest of these episodes? Because when we first got introduced to him in this season, which was last week, I believe, and yeah, it was last week, it wasn't in the first episode, he, at the end of the episode, he got his finger pricked, and so Henry has his blood for whatever reason. And in this, of course, he's just kind of he's being told, like, hey, you can't trust Henry because he's trying to do something crazy. So how do you guys think his storyline is going to change now that he knows what Henry's up to? Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.